Let's check this out. Palace is yours.
Welcome to the Palace of Versailles, a masterpiece of 17th century French art, first listed as UNESCO World Cultural Heritage 30 years ago. Its wealth of works and decor reflects the taste and splendor of the kings who lived here and fashioned it over the course of 300 years. Today, the palace opens its doors to you for a unique virtual visit of the most emblematic locations. You have the museum to yourself. You are free to explore it from dawn till dusk according to your interests and desires. Let yourself be blown away by the Royal Chapel, the sacred architectural gem that King Louis XIV desired. Walk along the marble-paved statue gallery on the first floor of the palace. Discover the Royal Opera House, one of the finest stages in Europe which still plays host to operas, concerts, and ballets. Admire the Hall of Mirrors, the unique backdrop to grand court parties with its 357 mirrors reflecting the gardens, symbolic of the skills of French craftsmen at the time. Its painted ceiling illustrates Louis XIV's greatest exploits. Enter the King's State Apartments, dedicated to the glory of the monarch, and the Queen's State Apartments, which preserve the memory of the 3 queens who lived here. Draw up close and handle these works, which bear testimony to the talents of the greatest artists of bygone centuries, with over 100 paintings, artifacts, and sculptures that will reveal their history, meaning, and secrets to you. This virtual experience will allow you to discover the beauty of the Sun King's palace differently. To begin, teleport yourself by clicking in the white area next to you. To do so, you just need to hold the trigger button on your controller down in order to aim properly, then let it go. The tutorial is now finished, and you are free to start your visit of the palace. Happy exploring!
That's the whole palace right there. The grounds. Quite big, that's for sure. Can't go in there. I'm gonna go to the left this time. You know what? Because I've done this before. Well, once. Let's see. Nighttime. Yes. Chandeliers. That too. Fireworks.
The current building is the palace's 5th. When Louis XIV took up residence in Versailles in 1682, he planned to build a royal opera house. But wars and financial problems meant that the project only came to fruition under Louis XV. The building was inaugurated in 1770 for the marriage of the Dauphin, the future Louis XVI, to Marie Antoinette. It was designed to fulfill 3 functions: that of a concert hall, ballroom, and banquet hall.
King's private box. Yeah, it's a seat. Look at that. Dead center. Fairly close. It's not that big. At least it don't look that big from here. I mean, decent size. I mean, gold everywhere.
The foyer of the Royal Opera House was the meeting place for important guests invited to performances. It led to the auditorium, where the front row seats were reserved for the royal family. It is decorated with statues of divinities and allegories.
cut off by the museum.
The upper statue gallery led to the prince's apartments, which no longer exist.
Wow.
Around the edge of the gallery are statues of great men from the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the 17th century. The gallery connects the chapel upper vestibule to the upper opera foyer.
It's like glitching out, going day night, day night.
The king accessed the royal gallery to attend mass via the chapel upper vestibule. The vestibule was connected to the king's state apartments.
I don't know where it was.
The current building is the palace's fifth chapel and was completed in 1710. Every morning, the king and the royal...
That's really annoying me. I don't know why it's doing that. It didn't do that last time I played. Now it's doing it outside still. What the hell? And it kind of doesn't... I don't know if it's going on with my computer. I see something's getting maxed out. It's rather frustrating. No, I mean it's just popping in and out. It's doing a medium. It starts doing it. What's going on? Imagine how long it would take to do this. That's a lot of damn work. All that painting. Come on. They're so high, so tall. It's way up there. That's good. Even though I got it on low settings, the textures and shapes didn't really change. Oh, check that out. Oh, I can't make it over there.
The king accessed the royal gallery to attend mass via the chapel upper vestibule. The king... Now the first room in the king's state apartments, the Hercules room, was the last room to be created at the end of the reign of Louis XIV. Built in the place of the old chapel, it was not finished until 1736. Two masterpieces by Veronese are displayed on the walls. The ceiling, painted by François Lemoine, depicts the apotheosis of Hercules, one of the largest paintings ever made.
That is a big ass painting. Wow. Oh, that's weird.
The Room of Abundance owes its name to the central work on the ceiling, symbolizing beneficent power and abundance. It was originally the antechamber of the Cabinet of Curiosities, or Room of Rarities, later lost, where Louis XIV used to keep precious items such as silverware, gems, and medallions. Refreshments were served here during evening gatherings, which were held several times a week in the king's rooms. The Venus Room was originally the main entrance to the king's state apartments. On the other side of the wall opposite the windows, it was connected to the royal courtyard by the monumental ambassador's staircase, destroyed in 1752. The Venus Room is dedicated to the goddess of love and beauty. Snacks were served here during evening gatherings.
Everywhere you look. Oh, I didn't even see that. Okay. Good for all of them, huh? Nice.
Like the Venus Room, the Diana Room was also connected to the ambassador's staircase and led to the state apartments. Built in honor of Diana, the goddess of hunting and the moon, the room was used during evening gatherings for billiards, a game which Louis XIV was particularly fond of.
I can only imagine another 5-10 years what VR is going to be.
Dedicated to the god of war, the Mars Room was originally the king's guard room. It was used for music and dance in the evenings.
Little doggy. What's this? Alexander the Great. 333. It's just spend hours looking around here for like this stuff. That's for sure. Got a couple other museum ones too. What the? I thought that was like some Street Fighter shit at first. How do you can? That's funny. That's what it looks like in front.
Once Louis XIV's ceremonial bedchamber, the Mercury Room soon became a games room during evening gatherings. It was in this room that the body of the Sun King was displayed in 1715.
I don't want to give you info on that guy. Never forget to look at the ceilings. So most of the artwork is every inch of every ceiling in this house.
Dedicated to the glory of the god of the sun, this room is adorned with a painted ceiling depicting Apollo on his chariot. It is one of the most prestigious rooms in the Palace of Versailles because it was initially the king's ceremonial room before serving as a throne room from 1682 onwards.
Just the legacies in this fucking palace. Look at that thing. Trophies of arms. Louis XV.
The War Room is the 8th room in the series composing the King's State Apartments and leads to the Hall of Mirrors. It celebrates the military victories and...
Wow, man, this is crazy. Look at that stuff. Yeah. This room just pops. So much depth. Look at that. Oh my god. Nighttime in here.
The Hall of Mirrors enshrines the military, economic, and artistic success of France under Louis XIV. It is emblematic of the wealth at Versailles. 73 meters long and 10.5 meters high, the king walked along it every day to get to the Queen's apartments and the royal chapel. Open to all, it was mainly a place for socializing, but also served as the backdrop to games, balls, and receptions.
I wish I could just walk in here. That would be so much better if I could just walk. But daytime brightens it up. Just awestruck. It'd be so much better in person, of course, but compared to not even seeing it at all like this.
The Peace Room is the southern counterpart of the War Room at the north end. It celebrates the benefits of peace.
Too many chandeliers.
The bedchamber is the most important room in the Queen's state apartments and was where the sovereign spent most of her time. She received ladies of the court here when she got up in the morning, a moment which was strictly governed by etiquette. It was also the room in which she publicly gave birth to the heir to the throne.
Publicly gave birth. Okay.
Originally the Queen's antechamber, the noble's room later became the Queen's chamber. In this room, the Queen held formal audiences seated on a chair on a raised platform beneath a canopy.
Big ass mirror.
This room was originally the Queen's guard room before becoming an antechamber. In the 18th century, it was where the King and Queen dined at the royal table. This was a public meal attended by both courtiers and less prestigious visitors, who were seated or left standing according to their level of importance. This was where the guards in charge of the Queen's protection stood. The soldiers monitored the comings and goings.
Having trouble loading them in.
The first room in the Museum of the History of France, commissioned by Louis-Philippe and inaugurated in 1837, the Coronation Chamber owes its name to the emblematic monumental painting of the Coronation of Napoleon by Jacques-Louis David in 1804.
You need a ceiling for something like that. And then again, that's fucking huge too. All of them are huge. They're probably bigger than that, yeah? Yeah, they definitely are. What time it takes to paint. This is just... Whew. Man. Oh, they tell you a lot. That's so sweet. Wow. I know we can
This was where the guards in charge of the Queen's protection. This room was original. The bedchamber, the Peace Room, the Hall of Mirrors enshrined. The Œil de Bœuf antechamber leads to the King's bedchamber and owes its name to the round window in the ceiling arch. It grants access to the King's room and was where courtiers could wait their turn according to their importance.
It looks good when you freaking...
Situated at the heart of the palace and east-facing, the King's bedchamber played host to three very important moments in life at court: the King's getting-up ceremony, dinner at midday, and the going-to-bed ceremony. Courtiers had to obey very strict etiquette in order to enter this room in the presence of the King. But when the King was not occupying it, it was open to all.
Man, Man, them look good in here. Like, that looks really good. Wish I could pull it in a little bit. Post, can I? There we go. Yeah, look at that. Okay. Wow. Dude, that is sweet. All these other paintings I can do that with.
The Œil de Bœuf antechamber leads to the king's
hold on.
bedchamber and owes it. Situated at this room was where Louis XIV held council with his ministers. Each day was dedicated to a particular subject. The Hall of Mirrors enshrines the military, economic, The War Room is the 8th room in the series composing the king's.
Let's see if we missed anything.
Dedicated to the glory of the god of the sun, this room is adorned with a painted ceiling depicting a...
Yeah, that definitely looks good. Man, you get mad close now. Okay. Wow, man, that's like I'm standing right in front of it. I mean, okay, not really. You know what I mean? It's pretty damn close. Where if that shit looks funny as hell. This dude's wearing the whole blanket. He's just.
Once Louis XIV's ceremonial bedchamber, dedicated to the god of war, the Mars Room was originally the king's guard room. It was used for music and dance in the evenings.
Love me. You love me. You peasants love me. Man. That's some diversity going on, though, that's for sure. Man, that looks good. Look at that little doggy. Wow. That's some good paint. Man.
Like the Venus room, the Diana room was also connected to the ambassador's staircase.
Alright, I think that's good for now. Stop this one. This is one more room, okay.
The Venus room was originally the main entrance to the king's state apartments. On the other side of the wall opposite the windows, it was connected to the royal